And hello there, it's Dr. Brenda, sociologist, financial coach, founder of Gutsy Women Finances Community, traveling the country in my RV with my 3 cats. Hey, please subscribe below if you already subscribed. Thank you so much. Wow, today is the 4th-year anniversary of my last day in the office. And boy, I remember it like it was yesterday. I had just returned from a 2-week business trip, and I had a little run-in with the head honcho just prior to leaving, and so I kind of like something's going on, and I had gone to the doctor's office to get an allergy shot, and while I'm at the office, my cell phone stopped working. It's business cell phone, so I'm like okay. Walk into the office, and my supervisor says we got to go to HR. So I go to HR, and they can me just like that. Boom. No questions asked, no kindness, nothing. It's just okay. You're out of a job. And I remember getting my boxes, driving my car up to the towards the entrance, and walking, gradually picking up my stuff and taking my boxes out to my car. And every trip I made, now people offered to help, and I said, nope, I'm good. I mean, I didn't cry. I was shocked a bit, yeah, but I'm like, every box I took out, I felt lighter and lighter and lighter. And it's like, at the end of the day, I felt relief. I mean, I really felt relief. Like all that stress of this crazy workplace is done. It's gone. It's now history. So yeah, I drove on the parkway and then met up with a friend who had also had the same experience at the organization. And yeah, we went through a couple of bottles of wine, and then it was time to move on with my life. So 4 years, anniversaries are really great for making you reflect and look at your journey and see where you are, and maybe also see where you need to be. So I ended up like kind of dividing these 4 years into different phases, and then I picked out 3 words to describe each phase. All right, so I'm going to take you on my journey. So it was April 10th, 2018, last day at the office, and I would call that phase from April all the way through August my shock and awe phase. It was shock that, after working my whole life, I didn't have to get up and go to a job. Um, it was a shock to be able to run my errands on a Wednesday morning when everything is shut down. And also awe because I had some trips lined up, trips that were fully paid for. So I hung out in May in the Virgin Islands to celebrate my little sister's 50th birthday, and then in August I had a group tour to South Africa. It's like, you know what, I'm probably never going to get the chance to do this again. It's all paid up. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so certainly during this time, as a financial coach and as somebody who tracks her money, I knew what was coming from, I knew I'd have a big payout because I'd get paid for all of that accumulated leave. And I'd had money stored up, so I'm pretty good for at least a year. I mean, it turned out I stretched that money to more like 2 years. So I knew that I was pretty good financially. I could reassess what I wanted to do. I mean, I worked in a very narrow niche, elder justice, adult guardianships. If I wanted to continue that, I was at the top of the game. I was known nationally. But if I wanted to continue that, I'd probably have to do a bit of traveling again and move. And I loved where I lived, but I couldn't imagine moving. And that money gave me opportunities. Like, what else do I want to do? And so I knew I wanted to do something on the financial front to help other women reach financial freedom. And so I began to take an online course on how to create online courses. I've done a lot of educational pieces, so I could train people in person, but I know it's different to train people online. So I wanted to learn from the best, so I took a course on how to create online courses. So I created an LLC in May. I lost my job in April, created an LLC. So I was committed at that point to being an entrepreneur. Okay, so the 3 words I picked out for that period. One word is Monday, because Mondays all of a sudden felt like the best day of the week. When you don't have to do all your errands and everything on a Saturday and Sunday, and Monday morning comes along and you got that whole week sitting in front of you, whole week in front of the office, and in the office in front of the laptop or doing whatever you're doing. Monday was a big word for me. Another word, quite honestly, was bitter. I was bitter for quite a while, and I've known that the bitterness, they don't care. I'm gone. I'm out the door. It doesn't do anything but keep me from moving forward. So I was very reflective of that. Bitterness over the fact that nobody asked me what happened, what was involved in that one incident that led to my being fired. And bitterness at the way they managed this, and after 16 and a half years, just basically booted out. And that's on them. But I had to work through that bitterness phase. Third word is detox. A lot of times you go through the motions and you're in this work environment, and a lot of times you don't realize just how damaging it is to you until you leave. And so I felt like physically, I had to get some sleep, and I had to just sort of brush that old atmosphere, that environment, that toxic work environment. I had to just sort of detox. So those are the 3 words I picked out for that initial stage, the shock and awe stage. So then I moved into what I'm going to call the dining room table stage. So I come back from South Africa and I planted myself at my dining room table. That was my home office. And that is where I really sat down. I worked on the course, and then I decided, if I want to be a financial coach, I'm going to learn how to do that the right way. And I became a student in the Financial Coach Academy and went through that program, which is excellent, by the way. But I sat at that dining room table day after day after day. And that was like, from mid-August 2018 to really into September, October of the next year. So that took me over a year. That spring, I had finally gotten one of my courses online and started to run ads and do all that stuff. And I couldn't sell the darn thing. So, and I didn't have a business background, and there were certainly gaps in what I knew about marketing and selling and just running an online business. So, though the words I picked for my dining room table phase, depression. I was depressed. I'd lost my identity, my title, my salary, my status. I'd lost all that, and couldn't quite figure out what I wanted out of this new life and how it would fit in. And I was depressed. I didn't like my lifestyle. Disappointment is the second word, and that is, I spent more hours working for myself than I did for my company, and really put together this incredible course and had everything in place I thought I did. And no money, no resource, no sales, nothing coming in. So that was incredibly disappointing. And the third word I picked out was fat. Okay, sitting at the dining room table, I was lonely, I was depressed, I was disappointed, and the weight just piled on and piled on. I realized that I the downside of working from home or working on your own is that you're all alone, usually Monday through Friday, because everybody else your age is at the office. And so my breaks were burger and a beer at New York Deli. And so I started, I drank more to just sort of relieve myself try to relieve myself of where I was in life. And I'd put on a lot of weight. And of course, that just adds to the depression and the disappointment and all of that stuff. It just feeds into itself. It was a really, really difficult period. Luckily, that's not the last phase. Whew. Okay, because after that, I'm going to call it, oh, excuse me. There we go. It's always a danger of sitting on the ledge of, I'm at Salt Springs. So early morning, Sunday morning, so Salt Springs in Florida, and yeah, it is cold here. So the third phase that I feel like I entered is called the big change. And so, I knew something had to change. I knew that I was self-destructing. I knew that I was so incredibly unhappy with my station in life and my weight and my health and my business, and nothing was working out for me. And I knew I had to make a big change. And so in October, I had gone back to Wisconsin to visit my family, and I kept thinking about the two things that I really, really missed from my old career. One was the travel. I've always loved travel. Now, sometimes it got to be too much, but I love travel. And then the second thing I missed was meeting new people. I got to meet so many cool people throughout my career. I missed those two things, and I began to think of how can I get some of that back? How can I do something else? And at the same time, my kid had moved out just like a month after I lost my job, and got himself a job in the Grand Canyon, and has been there ever since, which is sort of meant given me the fact that I don't have a responsibility to anyone other than myself. And I'm like, you know what? This house, it's just me. It's just the cats. It needs a new roof. It needs AC. It needs a lot of work done. I don't really want to spend the funds for it. It's a big pot of money I'm sitting on. It's an asset that I'm sitting on that I don't really care to keep anymore. And I started to think about the whole RV life. And I'd never driven an RV and never really been in one or spent any time in one and didn't really know much about it at all. So on that trip to Wisconsin, I asked my older sister if we could stop at a couple of RV places. I just wanted to walk in some and see if it was a possibility. And I remember walking into the first, camper that I saw and looking at the size of it and what was inside. And I'm like, my mouth hung open. I looked at my sister. I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. And that was the beginning of the big change. I flew back to Virginia, and I remember I was tired, but I was so excited I couldn't sleep. I'm like, this feels right. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sell my house, take those assets. That allows me to live on the road, even if I don't make any money for a couple of years. Even longer. It allows me to live on the road, and I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go for it. So that was the big change. I started looking for RVs. I found one I loved, but it was under contract, and looked around, and then I found out that the one that I fell in love with, the contract fell through, so I bought it. So December, I bought the RV, had it down at the repair shop so that they could just do some upgrades and do some minor repairs, and it sat there for a couple of months before I brought it back to Virginia and parked it at a park near my house. And in the meantime, I got to get my house ready for sale. And boy, if you've ever had to downsize, you know what that's like. That takes weeks, months, selling stuff, giving away things, sorting through, figuring out what I need in the RV, what can I take with me, what is gonna, an RV is not a big space. And then, so I put the house up for sale in January, and in February, we started to get hints that COVID is coming to America. COVID is here, and people were panicking, and that also affected anybody trying to sell their house. You know, people didn't want to go into a house anymore, and this is, you know, before some of the realtors got a little wiser throughout this and started doing video tours. But this was right at the beginning, so the house sat, and it, you know, people were uncertain of their jobs, so you know, trying to sell the house took a lot longer than I wanted it to. Now that allowed me to do all the renovation and paint and get the RV, turn the RV into a home, but it was the big change. Finally, my house sold. May 27th, 2020, turned in the keys to the house, turned on the RV, hitched up for the first time, away I went. So that is the big change. My 3 words there, downsize. Yeah, downsizing from a house into an RV, and I don't have anything in storage, so it was really going through everything. The second word is money, because I was kind of stretching it there. I was towards the end, and I have funds in my retirement, but I'm committed to hold off on touching those retirement funds. So this is everything outside of retirement. So the money was getting tight. The money that I would have to invest in the house was more than I was willing to spend, especially since I didn't really want to stay there or live there. And it really, you get creative when you're thinking about your money, because then it's like, then you do see that, you know, I can sell my house, and that will allow me to give me the life that I want. But that money is a push. And the third word is hope, because you know, thinking about that dining room table and those words I gave you, depression, disappointment, and fat, this, I had hope again. I had hope that I could retrieve who I really was. I had hope that I could be active and get rid of that weight. I had hope that I could find something really great out there on the road. So, end of May 2020, that starts my RV life. That is the big phase, but you know, I'm a sociologist. I love organization. I love categories. So we have sub phases. You ready for the sub phases? So I'm now into RV life, and I'm going to go through that first 6 months. I'm back to shock and awe. I'm back to the shock that, oh my God, I've just uprooted my life. I've left my friends. I don't have any family here. It is just me on the road in this RV, driving this big old honking thing, figuring out, you know, what the devil I'm doing with this RV. And then awe, because it's like, whoa, I'm in the mountains, and I'm seeing all these things and starting to experience nature again. And so that was like, you know, the end of May 2020 into probably November. And my words are 30 amps, because that represents how little I knew about RVing. That first campground I went to, my circuit blew, and I didn't get a very good tour of my RV. I didn't know where the circuit breaker was. And so I had to go to the camp host, and together we found it. We figured out where it was, and then I learned, you know, so it was like 30 amps. I can't run the AC and the oven at the same time. I can't run the AC and boil my hot water on the tea kettle at the same time. So 30 amps sort of represents to me all the things I had to learn about the RV. The second word I picked out for that initial phase was kind of panic. I remember waking up at 2 in the morning, or just going to bed at night, and the rain would be falling, and I would be thinking, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing? Oh my God, you're out here all by yourself. Oh, what are you doing? You took everything that you knew, and you're out here on by yourself. And so there were moments of panic. And then with the business group that I had started to participate in, a group of entrepreneurs, my word of that year was brave. And that's the word I'm going to use, because you figure it out. I stuck with, I'm brave. I'm not going to get caught in that gas station. I'm going to figure out how to get out of these jams. You just got to keep going. You're on your own. You're going to be brave. You're going to get through those moments of panic. You're going to be brave. So that was, again, that shock and awe phase. And then I hit, I would say starting December of that year, I got more comfortable. I was parked at South Padre Island for a couple of months, and I hit what I'm just going to call the adventure phase. I started to be really familiar with the ins and outs of the RV and the RV life and what I needed to do. And it just felt like more and more of an adventure, like, all these trips that I'm taking, the mornings I'm leaving, it's like Christmas. It's like, it's so exciting. Where am I going? What am I going to see? And the words I picked out there are joy. That's the first word, because I don't know that I ever experienced the joy that I feel out here on the road. The joy that comes deep down inside you, internally, as you're, for me anyway, hiking through the woods or doing whatever it is that I'm doing, really being at peace with who I am and where I am, and just taking in the incredible scenes. It is joy. Second word I picked out, that was my word of 2019, was bold. I'm just going to be who I am. No camouflage here. Not going to do the makeup. Not going to pretend to be anybody else. I began working. I worked that whole year with a business coach. Created Gutsy Women Club, and I was just going to stick myself out there and be bold, and people are going to like me or they're not going to like me, and it's just, that's the way of life. It's totally okay. I'm going to be bold. Third word is alive. And this is from a text, it's like I texted my sister, says, I feel so damn alive. It's like all of your senses are awakened. I mean, I feel so alive out here where I am. It's cold, and I can see the little the frost coming up off of the springs, and it's just it is being alive. So shock and awe, adventure. I feel like I'm in a new phase now. Okay, this year, my word of the year is magic. And magic as it relates to sort of all the little pieces of my life and all of the things that I've done in the past, especially with my business. It's like, I know all the pieces. I'm just going to find that magic compound and build everything. I get my business really moving forward. And I feel like I have moved into a new sub-phase that I'm going to call the focus phase. So I don't work with that business coach anymore. I've realized that I was being pulled in so many different directions, and I went back. I'm going right back to my initial intention when I lost that job. My mission began. My mission was, and my mission is, to help women reach financial freedom, because that makes all the difference in the world. With being financially free gives you the freedom to live the life that you want to live. And so when your job ends and you're in your 40s or your 50s or however old, instead of freaking out and having to find any old job, you've got the time and the money to have the resources to explore, maybe do something a little different with your life, take a risk. That's what I've always been about since that old career ended, and that's what I'm returning to. So I just recently put things in motion to get rid of the Gutsy Women Club. I haven't figured out a real good purpose for that. I'm not able to drive engagement. At this point, it's a distraction. I'm reworking my website. I'm changing the programs that I'm offering, and building Gutsy Women Finances out, adding my workshops. It is focus. My intent is to continue my financial freedom journey by becoming a profitable entrepreneur, but it's also to stick with that original mission. So I've got magic. I have habits. Well, what I just talked about was my business. So business is the second word. The third word is habits. And I've been on the road long enough. I feel like I've broken some really tough habits. Later this month, I approach my 1 year anniversary of being alcohol free. Yay! And that was a big one. It's like drinking beer, especially growing up in Wisconsin. Y'all drink beer, right? So it had become a habit, and it was detracting from my health, from my weight. I mean, it added pounds to my weight. It was very hard to lose weight when you're drinking beer. So habit is one. That was a big habit that I broke. I am so much more active, and my habits are so much better. So yeah, so I feel like I have entered the focus phase. That joy continues. I went hiking yesterday on a trail. This is the second time around the loop, 5.5 mile loop, and it was called the Yearling Trail, named after that. It's where the setting for the Yearling, which was uh, a Pulitzer Prize winning novel, I think in 1938, bestseller, about a fawn that gets adopted, and then it's survival at the end, and no more fawn, no more deer. But anyway, I was walking around there and getting exercise, getting fresh air, and I just it's joyful. So yeah, so 4 years. There's a lot of me that says I can't believe it's 4 years this coming. I mean, I've got lots of anniversaries coming up. My alcohol-free anniversary at the end of May. It'll be 2 years on the road in my RV. I am not the same person, but I am the kid I was. I mean, there's this old photo of me sitting in a rocking chair petting a cat, and of course, I'm traveling with my 3 wonderful cats who are doing great. And as a kid, I always loved adventures, and I feel like that's who I was as a kid, and I am returning back to the true me, the one who loves adventures, the one who thrives on new stuff, the one who just, is kind of a goofball. And so a lot of the stress that I felt, that old job, that was, peeling that off and getting rid of those layers of stress. And RVing, there are different layers of stress, more like, temporary moments of terror. And once you get through that, you're okay. But losing that job, getting fired, was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then even when I think about, money getting tight, forced me to think about my lifestyle and whether the assets I had, that house, whether they served me. So actually, getting to a point where I had to really be concerned about making my money last, that was a good thing. That was a turning point too, because it helped me, both of those things helped me evaluate who I am, who I was, how I'm living, and how I want to live. So, out of bad stuff, good things can happen, but we have to make it happen. That being fired gave me opportunities. It led me to where I am today, and I don't think I could be any happier than I am right now, any more content, any more joyful. I love this life. And I'm wishing the same for you. Not all the adversity, but that out of those hardships, out of those difficult things, you make something good of it. You look deep inside. You see what you're all about, and you come back at the other end a more solid, more authentic, a more joyful human being. Okay, happy anniversary to me. I'm on the road in a couple of hours. It's a short drive, maybe 2 hours to my next destination. And hey, the fun continues, the adventure continues. Don't forget to subscribe. Hey, take care. Bye-bye.